Yeah, I mean, that's really, a sideshow in terms of what's going to happen because next Friday, Musk is buying it for $54.20. Now, this national security review, which, by the way, the White House has since said that it is unaware of. We do not know of any such discussions, and that helped a bit in terms of the decline in the stock. But you're still seeing it there. That is more or less solely because of this story from Bloomberg. Well-regarded reporters behind it. And so the question becomes, well, who told them this and why did they think it was worth writing? We don't know. We don't know. I will tell you, at least in speaking to people close to Twitter, they are unaware of any inquiry so far from the U.S. government at all about national security concerns here. That said, where would or how would they take place? Well, perhaps CFIUS, remember the Committee for Foreign Investment in the U.S., which reviews deals for their national security profile if they feel like there's something that is concerning to them. If you were to see a formal letter from CFIUS to Musk and Twitter, they would hold up the deal until that inquiry took place. That has not happened. But that is the concern right now, that, in fact, the next week, given what we saw in this Bloomberg story, that somehow they would decide that that is something they wanted to take a look at. His tweets about Putin or the fact that he's providing Starlink for free to the Ukrainian to Ukraine and has said, hey, I'm providing it for free and I'll get just keep doing. It's very much unclear exactly what has risen to a level that would really concern the government in at least a real way. Section 4 of the equity commitment letter, by the way, states that Musk cannot bring in investors that would result in consent or additional approval under any antitrust or foreign investment laws. So if they were to say, hey, we have some issues with your investors, he'd just have to get rid of them under the merger agreement and replace them either with his own equity or somebody else. Talked yesterday about a lot of the equity that at least is being attempted to be raised. Even more on that. This guy, Gavin Baker, the hedge fund up in Boston, had a big presentation yesterday, pointing out, by the way, that about 7% of the users are responsible for 80% of the cash flow. That may go to why some of these stories about significant layoffs may be true in some fashion, although I have not heard that 75% number. But, I mean, you guys know this. Anything at this point will scare people off because it's Twitter, it's Musk. This would be, Jim, outside the realm of what many would deem acceptable, almost has rings of what we would have seen under the previous administration, doing something that would be to the benefit of the president, perhaps, by taking advantage of and trying to penalize their political opponents. I mean,
geez, I have the exact same story in my reporting, and I know we speak to different people, but that's exactly the story I got. And people who are selling the stock, it's motivated by other people, and they're going to miss the fact that the deal will close. And I mean, I don't know about the layoffs because the layoffs haven't been targeted, but I have exactly the same story you did, which is that this is, while it's certainly, I'm not going to say a story is a mistake. I am saying that this is not going to hold up.
It seems unlikely, but it doesn't take much to concern people who are betting on a close next Friday. Of course, as we discussed yesterday, and as I quoted some of these emails that have gone out in terms of looking for further equity checks. This deal is expected. Everything I've heard indicates that it is expected to close next Friday. But this was unexpected that you would even see a story like this. Right. How to actually gauge its impact, Carl, is very much unclear right now.
Yeah, and Musk himself is responding to tweets about the report. The notion that somehow he wants the government to save him from a deal that some argue he doesn't really want is not lost on him, at least that thesis.
No.
He loves irony.
But the idea that he actually is playing chess at such a high level that he actually did this purposefully to try to bring about a national security review that could result in the deal not happening.
5D chess.
Ooh.
Yep.
That's hard to imagine. And again, people close to Twitter indicate to me there's nothing they've seen from the government in terms of any inquiry thus far. But, listen, it's Twitter. It's just like it's Chinatown, Jake. I mean, I don't know.
Meanwhile, Wedbush today says he's probably got to sell another 5 to 10 of Tesla. in order to pay for this deal, which they think fair value on Twitter is more like 30.
30 or below. Given the snap numbers today, you could imagine if Twitter was not in possession of a 54-20 deal that is going to close next Friday, it would be a lot lower. That number is very large, and that's not taking into account some of this other equity that's being raised on the side. So we'll see what he really needs to sell.